Ladies and gentlemen, a second development diary has just hit the PDX forums. That's right, folks. Here today, we are going to be talking about the latest Tinto talks dropped just 5 minutes ago, and you guys are going to be seeing it relatively soon as well, about the biggest and greatest and latest changes coming to Europa Universalis 5 version 1.1 Rossbach that is due to be released in just a couple of weeks. Hopefully, please let it hurry up. But in today's Dev Diary, ladies and gentlemen, Johan has presented us with some of the best changes I have seen so far. Something we, yes, all of us, and myself personally, have been asking for quite a while. And after going over this Dev Diary, just like last week's, I'm confident in saying that all of these changes are absolutely amazing. I've wanted them for so long, and well, in just a couple of weeks, we're gonna have them all. So let's jump right into this Dev Diary so you can learn what's coming as well. All right, here we are in Tinto Talks 95, ladies and gentlemen, from today, January 21st, and let's just go ahead and jump right into it, man. So, welcome to Tinto Talks, the happy Wednesday where we talk about what's happening with EU5. Today, we'll talk about another big batch of changes we're making to 1.1 Rossbach, and let's start with some big changes to things you have complained about before going into some new features. Yes, these are things that we have all complained about. So let's see what exactly has been fixed, or at least what they're letting us know that has been fixed so far. And first of all, man, something that has been a point of discussion for, well, more than a month now, ever since 1.0.10 dropped, AI aggression. Some of you love it, most of you hate it, but let's see what Johan has to say. So in 1.0.10, we had gotten the AI to be more aggressive, but the experience for the majority of players was not positive. While we have tweaked, reduced, and changed quite a lot of logic in it for 1.1, we also decided to make this a game rule as well. The normal AI aggression game rule is also far less aggressive than the AI was in 1.0.10, while we have options for those that want something more dangerous as well. As an example, in 1.0.10, the time between wars was 6 months for the AI, and in the most popular AI mod, it was 24 months, which is now the default value for normal AI aggressiveness. So yeah, this is pretty much, I think, picked up off of the no CB wars mod or whatever it was. And there's the game rule. AI will require CB. Right now, as we all know, the AI likes to do a lot of no CB wars. Month between wars plus 60 and plus 25% carefulness. That is the low aggression game rule. So this would be, I mean, just looking at it off of this is probably less aggressive than any version we've had so far, just, you know, eyeballing it like that. So that is interesting. I doubt a lot of people will be playing with this, but I'm satisfied that it's in the game at all. You know, maybe it'll help newer players, which I guess most of us are at this point. Then we have the high aggression option, AI opinion bias minus 50, so they hate everyone more. 6 months between wars, plus 100% aggressiveness and minus 25% carefulness, which is, this I think is what it's like currently in 1.0.10, and then, you know, the sweet spot will be this right here, which they haven't posted an image of. But yeah, man, I'm pretty satisfied with these changes. I think most people, 90% of people, are just gonna leave it on normal, which is this right here. Now, as Johan says right here, you know, the experience for the AI being more aggressive for a lot of players was not positive, and I actually don't fully agree with this, because I personally do quite like how aggressive the AI is. What I don't like is how broken the Holy Roman Empire is, and then France and Bohemia, sometimes Hungary, Poland, and Denmark, and England too, just gobbling it all up. The aggressiveness between any other nations is completely fine with me, right? If we take a look at what's going on, for example, in Iberia, or in the Maghreb, or in Anatolia, the Balkans, Poland, Ruthenia, the Baltic, Scandinavia, everything is all right there. Like, nations are expanding, at least for me, as fast as I want them to expand. They're taking as much land as I would like them to expand. The only thing I think most of us actually don't like about this new AI aggressiveness is the brokenness of the HRE and how everyone just goes in on it, right? Basically, all of us are pissed off by what France and Bohemia are doing, and also France and England over in the HRE. So does this solve the issue of the AI being aggressive? Yes, in a way, but, you know, it doesn't matter, I think, if there's more time in between wars, like 24 months, and that it will require a CB, right? France and Bohemia if the HRE is still as weak as it is right now, they're still gonna do it. They're still gonna eat up the HRE, although it will be slower. So I do support this entire change right here, although I think the underlying issue of why people did not like this change still hasn't been addressed. Let's hope it will, but so far this is a good step. Once again, we're waiting for the HRE. Next, moving on to new advances and old campaigns. One complaint we've had was that it was a bit frustrating to get a new update adding advances to a country, and you were in the middle of a campaign as that country and thus could not benefit from it. Now, in the Rossbach update, all new advances will be added to the tech trees in appropriate places, so you would no longer need to restart your campaign, but you can continue. So basically, this means, for example, like I talked about last week, Austria, for example, is getting a little advance for itself that gives it minus 50% proximity cost through mountains and stuff like that, because it is mountainous, but you want to project a lot of control as Austria. And for example, let's say someone's doing Austria right now, they don't have that advance. If you're still playing Austria and you update it to this, that advance will be in the advances tree in the appropriate spot. Let's say if it's last, I guess you'll research it since it's last, but if it's between something, like two things that you've researched, I guess it'll already be researched for you. So that's an awesome thing. I like it. Honestly, haven't thought of this at all, but hey, excellent. Am I right? Now, I was talking about the HRE literally a minute and a half ago, and here we have a little brief paragraph about the HRE, so let's see if it addresses, the complaints pretty much everyone has been having about it. So, we've done a fair bit of changes to the HRE to make it last longer and not be gobbled up by France, England, and Bohemia by the early 15th century. Yes. Yes, thank you. That's all we wanted. That's all we wanted. Let's see what the changes actually are. AI will no longer do no CB wars inside the HRE. Excellent. While for the player, the cost has increased by 100%. I like this change. No one really does no CB wars inside the HRE anyway, but you can still do them if you want to. Excellent change. I agree with it. The AI of the Emperor will now avoid declaring any offensive wars against fellow members of the HRE. The wording on this is kind of interesting because I do think countries should still aim to maybe connect their land. So yes, if Bohemia ends up being the Emperor, I'm cool with it avoiding. It doesn't say they won't do wars. It says they'll avoid them against fellow members of the HRE, so maybe even in defensive wars they can take land. But for example, let's say Austria becomes the Emperor, I would like to see them connect their land, maybe not every campaign, but every so often, sort of like Austria does in EU4. So this I also agree with and also support and I also like it, but the wording here is not very clear. Will it altogether avoid, like never do any offensive wars, or maybe very rarely? So a change, I guess we'll have to see how this one works. Next, the price of the Golden Bull reduces by 1 with every year, meaning that by 1377, the Golden Bull is literally free to enact. Excellent. This is another excellent change, which I think, man, should make the Emperor, at least hopefully if we have a strong Emperor, be willing to defend the Holy Roman Empire and stuff like that. Because let's face it, it's only the big guys that go in on the HRE, like France initially, and then Bohemia, and then once it weakens and weakens and weakens, that's when everyone else comes in. Hungary from here, Poland from over there, Denmark from the north, Milan a lot of times from the south. So I do think that this is a good change, that by this point it'll be free to enact, so we should be literally seeing it every single campaign. Once again, an excellent change. And then moving on further from that, raised antagonism for taking land from other members of the as an HRE member to 125%. Honestly, I like that. Yeah, I like that. Expansion in the HRE is slow-ish even right now, but it should be, right? There should be lots of aggressive expansion like there already is. It should be pretty difficult to expand inside the HRE. Not impossible, obviously, but slower. I actually like this. I actually do like this change, the change to 125%, that's excellent. And then raise the antagonism for taking lands from other members as non-HRE member to 200%. So that's even better, man. For non-HRE members, it means, once again, more likely to get coalitions, right? As this, it may not be that impactful. Let's say, I don't know, just going off of like, province or location basis, I guess if by now you could take 7 or 8 locations without a coalition. Let's say now it's probably down to like 5 or 6 or 7, whereas this is a very meaningful change. And I do think it should deter, well, you know, Bohemia, if they become the emperor. I guess they won't be doing wars anyway, but let's say Bohemia is not the emperor. I think it should deter France, England, Denmark, Hungary, Poland from doing it. But even then, man, even antagonism might not completely solve the issue, because they do get into coalitions even now, but everyone that fights the coalition, that joins the coalition, just gets their manpower way more depleted than, let's say, like France. So, you know, I think France, with the regular setting of, you know, regular carefulness, regular months between wars, it requiring a CB, and with this change for a 200%, and with the Golden Bull, honestly, this, you know, the whole issue of France and Bohemia eating the HRE, just off of reading, man, I think it's probably like 90-95% solved. Obviously, I don't have access to 1.1. I don't know if any content creators do. I don't. So yeah, I guess we'll have to wait for it to come out and see. But this is actually, you know, an excellent step in the right direction, man. We just gotta see how it works in real life, right? And, you know, it doesn't say that these numbers are subject to change, and even if they are or if they aren't, I think all of these numbers, everything that they showed off so far, is pretty good. So, honestly, I'm pretty satisfied with this, man. But like I said, we'll have to wait and see how it plays out. Moving on further to a feature I've been requesting for such a long time now, and it's been so annoying. I don't believe it wasn't in the game since the start. It's literally been in EU4 since forever. It's as simple as this, ladies and gentlemen. Not a lot to talk about. This was much requested to reduce micromanaging, so you can now set any fleet you have to escape to a port during at war. Thank you, Johan, thank you. Honestly, this is all I wanted, man. This is all I wanted. Finally, my navies won't be destroyed. It's so simple, man. You just set all of your light ships to go home during war, you know, the ones projecting maritime presence and stuff like that, or whoever ships you have, or the transports. You whip out the galleys, you whip out the heavies, lock them in, do battles. All of these guys are safe, you know, the barks and stuff like that. It's simple, man. It's simple, you know. I'll just have to learn which of the 3 chains right here is it, but honestly, another change I'm satisfied about. Moving on to another feature a lot of us have been requesting for quite a while, ladies and gentlemen, and that is Provoke Rebels. How many times have you, yes, you at home, found yourself with Rebels at 95%? And it's some lame-ass Rebels too. It's like 300 guys rising up in bumfrick nowhere, and, you know, they're not even gonna get a location or nothing like that. But no, you can't declare this extremely opportunistic war that you found for yourself just because you gotta wait those guys tick up at 0.01% a month. We can finally provoke rebels, ladies and gentlemen. One of the problems with rebels is that they won't rebel when you want them to rebel, and they're stalling, yes. So for the cheap price of 10 legitimacy, etc., so I guess this will be changed, but honestly, I like that. Maybe it shouldn't cost legitimacy, but just a little bit of something, like 10 legitimacy, I don't know, 5 or 7 stability, I don't know, like 100 ducats, something like that. You should have a perfectly timed civil war. Yeah, it's as simple as that, man. Right-click, provoke rebels. Right now, I guess it costs legitimacy, but because we got slash, etc. right here, I guess it's subject to change. Once again, man, super satisfied with this. No longer will we have pesky rebels. You can pop them whenever you want to. You know, you can make them, you know, go down a little bit so there won't be as many. Yeah, it's just better for declaring wars. At least, you know, opportunistic wars that you're like, hey, I gotta do this right now, but frick, I can't because of rebels. Another excellent change, ladies and gentlemen, that I'm happy about. Next, moving on, now let's go into a few new features that will improve the gameplay in the 1.1 Rossbach update. Appease estates. Huh? What is this? This new cabinet action allows you to focus on an estate if their satisfaction is below 50% and make them happier over time. Now, this one I think should be in the game at the start. So let's say if the nobles are selected, you know, it increases their equilibrium, the noble satisfaction recovery, basically everyone over here. Perhaps you'll be able to, you know, perhaps certain other modifiers or advances you unlock will also impact this. But listen, how many times at the start of your game, you know, you found yourself granting the government reforms, granting all the privileges, and as always, the nobles are pissed off. Now, depending on what you grant, you can usually avoid this nobles rebellion because eventually they will become happy, maybe bribe them a bit, maybe get into a war so they can't rise up. But this is simple. You know what I'm going to use this on? on making the nobles happier faster at the start of the game. This will also help you dodge rebellions as well, man, which I think is an awesome change. Yeah, great cabinet action, something I honestly haven't thought about, but I'm super satisfied that it's in the game. Excellent change. Moving on over here to something very interesting now, ladies and gentlemen, combined arms. What is this? Let's check this out. While we have a rebalanced combat and units a fair bit, as mentioned 2 weeks ago, which I already talked about in, you know, the last Dev Diary video, check that out if you haven't already. We also wanted to encourage a more varied army. Now, if you have less than 50% of the most common type of unit in any army or navy, and we count by regiments and or ships, not by men, so the amount of regiments, then you have a chance of getting a combined arms bonus in combat. Every category of unit that has over 10% of the amount of regiments will increase the bonus by 5%. There are advances that will increase the bonus in later ages as well. So as an example, step cords can have up to 70% of the same type of unit, so you can keep a larger amount of horse archers. You know, it's like, what was it called in EU4? This is kind of like, frick, what was it called? Like ratio, calf to infantry ratio. That's really the only thing I can compare it to, but not really. Be aware, light cavalry and light infantry are counted separately from heavy cavalry and infantry, and we will in a later update make them into unique categories. So we got a 20% combined arms bonus because of how the army is composed right here. As you can see, 5 from this, 5 from this, 5 from this. So we'll be able to play around with these things nicely, man. And this could potentially be a new combat meta. I don't know, once again, just like the whole HRE aggressiveness thing, this is definitely something that's going to have to be tested out. And actually, I do find quite interesting, but I guess we'll have to see how it works in practice, along with this, and along with the other changes to the armies and mercenaries, and levies, actually, that we already talked about last week. Next over here, moving on to something that we do like quite a lot as well, and I think a bunch of us have complained about, it's unit formation auto balance. Now, we talked about the auto balance toggle in the last Tinto talks, but we did not explain much about how the units would be balanced. We did something extra here and added some templates that you can choose from for how the army should be balanced. Yes, excellent, dude. This is literally the thing I talked about in my video. I wonder if I'm probably not the only one that mentioned that, but yeah, so now, you know, on auto balance, man, you can select, for example, balanced army. The center will aim for 125% frontage of, you know, these, let's say, you know, these are just the guys we have. So it like, it balances as the balance is pretty balanced. Everything is equal here, as we can see. So yeah, I am assuming there will be other templates. Maybe we'll be able to create our own, you know, depending on how the meta changes and stuff like that. But this is excellent, man. This is so good. Another change that I've been wanting ever since, you know, I started balancing armies manually, because sure, you don't balance the levies manually, but when you finally create your own army and then it goes into battle, and sometimes, I talked about this last week too, sometimes you attach levies to it and then, you know, you balance, but everything gets mixed up and now the war is over, so you gotta spend 15 minutes rebalancing everything and putting the cavalry on the flanks and, you know, the cannons behind you and the infantry in the center and stuff like that. So this is once again a nice quality of life change that I think will shave quite a few minutes off of, you know, your hour of gameplay, and it'll enable you to do much more fun things, like actually kicking ass in battle instead of just balancing. Obviously, you know, the manual balancing is still here for everyone that likes to, you know, tinker with those types of things. But this is excellent, man. I know I'm going to be using this a whole lot, and I think a bunch of you guys are going to be as well. So there we go, man. Something building upon stuff that I literally talked about last week. I'm super glad this is in here. I'd like to think that I, you know, brought forth this change. I probably didn't. 99.9% I didn't, but hey, it's cool that I mentioned it and that it's here. So this is another excellent change that I'm super happy about. Cool. Let's see what else is new. Then moving on to peace treaties, we've added a few new peace treaties that should help with shaping the map more like you want it. We have transfer subject. One of my favorite ones from EU4, ladies and gentlemen, and of course in the first age ability, transfer subject at half cost, which was awesome. Don't know if we'll have something like that here, but for example, there we go. This treaty allows you to steal a subject directly from another country at war. Transfer fiefdom Lika from Austria to Zurich will cost 25 war score and a maximum of 1.89 antagonism. Basically, it's diplomatically limited, blah, blah, blah. It'll cost that much diplomatic capacity. This is actually also good to know. Food access, blah, 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 something more. They can create their own subjects. And, you know, basically it just becomes a regular fiefdom of yourself. So yeah, This is excellent, man. I wonder why this wasn't in the game at the start. You know, the current meta right now when fighting a country with subjects is to just take land from the country that you're fighting, because obviously when you annex them, they'll become your subjects as well. And I think the meta will still continue to be that. But for example, let's say, you know, you're fighting someone like Bohemia and you're Poland. And let's say you're interested in owning all of Poland and you need to take Silesia. So instead of just taking all of that land manually and getting more and more aggressive expansion and then releasing guys over there, let's say, you know, if there wasn't a million guys in Silesia, if there was like 2 or 3 of them, you could just beat Bohemia's ass, transfer all of those subjects over to yourself, and Bob's your uncle. So another excellent change that I'm super happy about. Can't believe it wasn't in the game, and I wonder for which subjects we'll be able to use. Can we steal a junior partner? Moving on further with another peace treaty, we got a Steel Maps peace treaty, which is actually something I can't believe I've never thought of. And for those of you that like to punch certain exploration-focused countries, you can now take maps as a part of a peace treaty. Take maps of the Caspian Sea. It's 10 war score and will cause a maximum of 0 antagonism. Yeah, I do agree that stealing maps shouldn't give antagonism. And I was gonna say 10 war score is a little bit much, but for it not giving any antagonism, yeah, honestly, I agree with this. Excellent, man, because it's so annoying, like, discovering the world in EU5, am I right? I mean, you know, if you don't kind of explore yourself, it's like you never reveal the entire world. I think the pace of how things get revealed and when they get revealed and to whom, I think should be more akin to, you know, EU4 and stuff like that. It's just way too slow, man. You make it to, like, the 16... Yeah, you make it to 1700, you're playing Hungary, but you don't know about, you know, freaking Brazil? Come on, man, it can't be like that. But excellent peace treaties. A few new, I wonder if this is all of them, but even if it is, I actually like these quite a lot. Now, moving on to another one, new diplomatic actions. Oh, this is something we talked about last time and that I've talked about multiple times, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, you can now transfer one of your subjects to another country for a price. Excellent, man. You know, if you're doing some sort of dynastic or union role play or junior partnerships and stuff like that, I think this is awesome, man. I think this is a great change. For example, you know, you want those guys over there to rule that for you and have created that subject. And sure, you're not min-maxing here if you're giving you know, a vassal to a junior partner. At least that's the example I'm giving right here. But this is an excellent change, man. Excellent change. I do like it quite a lot. This will help make for cleaner borders, which as you all know, I am a freak for. And there we go. We can see the price down here at the bottom for the transferring of Catalonia to Portugal or something like that. I guess we're playing as Castile over in this example. And secondly, we've also added the ability to move locations between subject. Yes. For those of you that really want to readjust the borders between your subjects, the AI will never do this though. Transfer location to another subject. This will have the following effect. Principality of Catalonia loses 8 opinion of Castile. If you transfer a province. I do think this is a bit much, especially if you do end up doing this in the New World, even though this hasn't been mentioned. That might be a completely different mechanic. But if you want to clean up the, you know, the province borders or the area borders or the region borders, sure. But, you know, just let's say you got to do 50, well, you probably won't end up doing 50 locations, but you're doing something like 10 or 15 locations. Those guys are absolutely going to hate you. Well, I don't know. Maybe, I guess, depending on the tax base and the size, it might not be that much. So I don't know about the numbers, but I'm super glad that this is in. I will definitely be making great use of this in every single one of my campaigns. So I like that quite a lot. And moving on to a little minor update right here, lockable production methods. While the automatic production method selection is pretty decent most of the time, sometimes you want to micromanage individual buildings and set exactly how they should work. This can be useful if you want to kickstart or improve other parts of the economy. So yeah, you can lock in pretty much the production method. This is another min-maxy thing. It's excellent for guys that like to min-max a whole lot, or if you're playing super tall, or if you're playing a super small country and you want to micromanage these things. I know I probably won't ever end up using this feature, but for the people that do play in that regard, I think this is an excellent change. and, you know, maybe even when I roll around to playing someone super tall and super small, and playing, you know, staying super small and becoming super tall, this might be something that ends up being useful. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, we've made it to the end of this absolutely amazing Tinto Talks right here with great changes. I gotta say, I like everything else so far, and Johan says I'll be posting some more posts about other changes before the weekend, which means I guess tomorrow and the day after that, and next week Pavia will be here to talk about the new content for the Rossbach update, which is absolutely excellent. Okay, I opened this up literally as Johan posted it, so I'm actually gonna reload this page right here and see if there are any you know, dev responses in the comments before we move on and say goodbye. Alright, so I've gone through the comments and there doesn't seem to be any, you know, dev responses so far. There might be some later. Obviously, check out this dev diary if you want to for yourself. It's literally just on the Paradox forums, the top in the EU5 section. Read through it yourself, man. And of course, check out the previous video if you haven't already. But yeah, let me know what you guys at home watching think about these changes, man. You know, and about everything, especially which one is your most favorite, which one is your least favorite, if you can even have any, because I think these are all great quality of life and improvements and features. And let me know in the comments below if you think that, you know, with this right here, with the AI aggressiveness, let's say set to normal, which is what I think 90% of people will play with, and with these changes, you know, to the HRE that were mentioned right here, do you think that the HRE disappearing will finally be fixed, and will we be finally able to have a normal campaign as Holland, for example? But yeah, excellent changes, like I said, man. Yeah, let me know what you think. Leave a like if you haven't already. Leave a like if you want to see more news like this. Subscribe for more news like this, and of course for regular EU5 content, and of course so you can watch the 1.1 videos when they come out. And of course in 1.1 I will be starting guides, once again nation guides, because I do think the game will finally stabilize, so that is something to look forward to. So yeah, leave a like, man, subscribe, and let me know what you think about all of the features that we talked about today, and if you want to see more dev diaries. And I guess, you know, we'll talk soon about any other changes that might have been made on the forums. But that's it for me for now. See you next time.